Welcome to Thriving in the Age of Disruption podcast series, Dr. Ong. I'm really excited that we have an opportunity to catch up again. And I thought that we could start off by having you introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thanks, Ramesh. And it's my pleasure to be on the podcast. I'm sure it's going to be fun. So I'm Geok Chwee. My day job is running an alliance of regional telecommunication companies. Bridge Alliance is an alliance that run regional initiative for 35 member operators across Asia, Middle East, Africa, and now Europe. As Bridge Alliance CEO, I really love my work because it allows me to connect with people across different region, culture, and also drive emerging technologies to uncover the possibilities. Ramesh, we did our doctorate degree together at SMU, and our focus was innovation. I have been in the telecommunication industry for many years. Used to work for Singapore Telecommunication Company, Singtel. I was with a startup doing vertical farming.
I have two ways in which we can move ahead with this conversation. Usually, I get into what are the two mindsets that to be effective in disruption. And that is the entrepreneurial mindset as well as a crisis ready mindset. But I thought that we'll park that aside first and talk a little bit about innovation. Direct consumers, we don't touch it except in the service levels that our telcos provide to us. When you look at innovation and the emerging trends in that space, what kind of innovation are you looking at? Is it deep tech or is it business model or is it service innovation? Which aspect of it is it?
Telecommunication industry requires innovation because telcos are under immense pressure in terms of how do they contain their costs while growing their top line. And it's very tough as consumers won't want to pay more. While the telcos launch 5G and new services, but you're expecting the telco to give you more for the same or less. So the telco companies are under immense pressure to innovate in every aspect of their business. So we look at new technology definitely, and in every conversation, every conference that you go, you can't run away from Gen AI. So Gen AI truly is disrupting every industry, and telco industry is also at the forefront of looking at how Gen AI can change the way we serve our customer, change the way we do our internal processes, as well as delivering new services for customers. We are already seeing an example of that happening, right? So for example, in South Korea, SK Telecom, they are already calling themselves an AI company. And they have been using Gen AI to transform how they use conversational chatbot to engage consumer, right? Instead of a live person, but the chatbot actually can also intelligently address what the consumer wants. And they are also using technology to deliver very different services for the industry, for other industry. So for example, in the area of animals, when they go for X-ray, the AI can actually read the radiography of this X-ray produced for the pets in seconds. So that helps a lot and shorten the whole life cycle. So that's really transforming how we serve customer or deliver services.
And it becomes a byproduct for us as a consumer because we benefit from the advances in telecommunication.
Yes, correct. The lowest hanging fruit for using Gen AI is in call center. Every call center is using it, right?
That's
Because
right.
manpower is an issue. The ability to engage customers so that you don't need them to keep repeating. The intelligence in understanding natural language with ability to also know the database and in-house information about the customer. And you can't lose that human touch. That's where AI comes in. If it detects that the emotion of the customer may be going up, is not really happy, then you need a human being to come in. And that's where the human agent can come in to do things that the AI couldn't. So that's why we see AI as a co-worker of the humankind, so that you can then let the human agent to focus on higher value add work rather than the mundane kind of work. So it's already happening in that operation, in the way we think about how we deliver services, and also in the B2B side where we look at solution to serve enterprises.
You'd also been in vertical farming.
Mm.
So, what was the key innovation for telecommunication as well as vertical farming?
The vertical farm was a startup that is using different technology to look at how you can cultivate vegetables using a tall tower and in a way that is very efficient in terms of land use and in a controlled environment. Good idea, and truly addressing the world hunger issue, right? Because a lot of areas, even if you have land, can you farm in a way that you can control what's going into the vegetable, right, without putting in all the chemicals and so on. The challenge in some industry like agriculture is the change management and the workforce. Because if you are using the traditional farmers, then you have to retrain the workforce. If it disrupt that way, then your new generation coming out will no longer look at agriculture as a back breaking kind of job, and it would then draw new talent into the industry, which I think is already happening. Like in Singapore, the government is pushing for vertical or what we call urban farming, right?
Yes.
There's technology that needs to go into that. The question then is about business model innovation as well, because the monetization must make sense. You know, vegetables, they don't sell very high price, right? If you are
Yes.
selling the same greens, then how do you justify for that technology investment? How many years is the ROI? And how do we sustain that kind of outcome, right? Especially at the front end, it's very tough because you have to look at various aspects of the business. So it's not an easy area to innovate. I can also see that even today in Singapore, the agriculture, aquaculture, there's
Yes.
some uh, cases where they are also struggling, and some vertical farm didn't quite make it in terms of business. So how do we break through in terms of business model is something that we have to truly look at. Because to your consumer, they may not appreciate the value. You
Yeah.
can't measure it, right? In terms of technology, if the technology is going into farming for vegetable that you're eating, you can't see immediately, right? The value of cleaner, greener are intangible. So would consumer care enough to actually pay a premium for it? Because there's a cost.
Yes.
So the education, the change management needs to come in, the mindset of how people look at it. The younger generation probably has a higher awareness in terms of, is this green, right? Is this sustainable? How is this whole supply chain being done? Uh, in our generation, we probably don't have that awareness. So your
Yes.
consumer take up of such better technology or outcome, it is quite a journey, I would say.
Like you said, if you don't have the critical mass, then you might die. And that was my experience when I had my first dot-com company in the late 1990s
Mm,
and early 2000.
right.
We were looking at creating stickiness and loyalty. But then it was a very small group of brands as well as consumers. And obviously, the idea was maybe 10, 15 years too early. What happens if you're an innovator who is thinking of an idea which is too early for the market?
Mm.
How do you sustain your business so that you can see the light at the end of the tunnel?
I guess one way is to really look at, is there a way to do what we call a dual transformation,
Oh,
right? Transformation A and transformation B. Meaning in your area of BAU, business as usual. Is there a business as usual that you can sustain, which is your cash cow, right? Whereas your early ideas of innovation, maybe it's still not matured yet. Is your transformation B, where you continue to put effort, but you have to balance these two portfolio. So in innovation, we talk about portfolio management, right? If you are a startup, sometimes you have no choice because your whole business is on one idea.
yes.
And you require investors who are walking the journey with you, who have the same belief. It's very important. The commitment to the idea and to the belief in terms of the success of this innovation. But sometimes certain idea, if it's really too early, not sure whether you should do it now or you should monitor the environment before you continue investing. So there's also a thing in innovation as in too much love, right? You love the idea so much that you know it's not going to work
Mm,
in this next 5 years and you're going to run out of cash.
yeah.
But because you love the idea, you believe so much, you have put in so much, it's very hard to say, kill it, right? It's your baby. And you
Yes.
keep going back to your investor to say, give me one more year. And it's one more year and one more year and one more year, right? Until
Yes.
the investor got fed up and say no more.
Yeah.
And that is also not a good way in managing innovation. So I really like this idea. I think it was Adam Grant's book
Mm.
about think again, right? To think like a scientist. Because sometimes when we think, we all know that there's such thing called confirmation bias.
Yes.
Love the idea so much. You keep finding data to back you up and say you're right.
Correct.
But there's so much data that tell you you're not, but you're ignoring it, right?
Yes.
So if you're to think like a scientist, you are being open to be corrected. And you get excited if you find data point that say that you're wrong, because that means you can do something different to correct your path. Whereas if you think like prosecutor, you are going to argue with people who show you a negative result. And you're going to say, I'm right, you're wrong, right?
Yes.
But thinking like a scientist to say this is my hypothesis. And if it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Right. And it's not me, it's the data. And
Yes.
there you evolve your model. So those people who are not stubborn about their first love, and they are open to new data point that comes in to prove that maybe they are wrong or they are right, and then they evolve along the way, can survive.
Oh, wow.
The idea might be too early because of certain shape and size that you are molding that innovation. But
Yes.
if you can correct and mold it, maybe there's early phase of product that you can launch first, right? And eventually evolve in multiple phase innovation until you get to the point which is your ideal state. So I find that idea of thinking like a scientist very powerful.
Yeah.
And like when we do our doctorate
Yes.
research, that's exactly what we have to do, right?
That's right.
Yeah, you have to go out there and collect data and let the data inform your thinking and not stick to your original hypothesis. And that's where you open up a whole new world of possibility. And that's powerful.
Thank you for decoding how entrepreneurs who are working in the innovation space and are trying to bring an idea that is ahead of time can manage themselves and their attachment to the idea in a responsible way so that it can actually see the light of the day, because you've got revenue generating side of the business, and then you've got this investment part that you have to make. The critical mass is not there, and so how do you balance the two to ensure that you have both? So let's move to what this podcast is all about. And it was during COVID times that I was looking at impact of disruption
Mm.
and how can we better cope with it. And I came to the realization that there are two essential mindsets. And the first one is an entrepreneurial mindset. And I define that as one where we are being resourceful in life. And to be resourceful, like how you describe a scientist, you're able to, first of all, define the right problem. Because if you define it correctly, then it's half solved. And the second aspect of an entrepreneurial mindset is to be able to deal with uncertainty as well as to take risk. Creating value means both financial and non financial for us as the entrepreneur, also for our other stakeholders. So, when you look at your own journey, you're someone who has worked in corporates, you've worked in startups, you've also done research around innovation, which has to be monetized in form of entrepreneurship. What that has been useful in your own journey, and how have you used your entrepreneurial mindset to create value?
You have defined what is required in being an entrepreneur very well in terms of asking the right question, defining the right problem statement, and the ability to have the mindset, right? To really look at how you go about solving it and sustaining that energy. And as well as how do you then continuously drive that forward. So in my own journey, I've been in corporate for the longest part of my career, which I define it as intrapreneur within the corporate. You're not running your own business, but you have the owner's mindset. So I always also share with my colleague and my teammates in the company, we all need to own our own business, right? Whatever is your scope of work, your area of business, you run it as if it's your own. And when you need to spend money, you will think twice. If this is your own money, would you spend? And that's the way that you should look at things and not have the mindset as in it's budgeted for, right? It's paid for by the company and I just have to spend it. That's not the kind of mindset. And how do we then, the kind of mindset where we constantly look at how we grow ourselves is very important. So as an entrepreneur, I also stress to the company that we need to have a growth mindset. So the growth mindset is one where we are always look at ourselves as in work in progress, right? You're not already done. So the fixed mindset is like I'm a talent, right? So I just have to sustain my image as the talent. But if you are a growth mindset person, you think in a way as in how can every day you're improving yourself. And I was reading this article talking about 1% improvement every day.
Wow.
Right? If you improve yourself 1% every day, by the end of 1 year, you're 37 times better than last year. The 1% every day, you can't feel it. But when you accumulate consistently, the change is huge. So the mindset of what have I grown? Have I grown better this year versus last year, today versus yesterday, is a very important mindset. And the same mindset you apply in terms of the work that we do. How can I do the work that's given to me better, 1% better every day, so that I don't keep stuck into the same way of doing things? In today's world, there's no business as usual, right? There's no as usual. So everything is being disrupted. So how do you preempt that? By being agile and being able to pick up a better way of doing things every day. And if you are having that mindset, you definitely can create value, right? The value add every day that you're bringing to your work. And if you are seeing progress, that's where you get job satisfaction. So there's also a study to say that people feel satisfied when you feel progress. You don't even need to see the final outcome. But at the end of one day, when you look back and say, oh, today I did something useful, right? You feel happy.
Yes.
So progress is what brings us satisfaction and happiness at work and actually in life. So you don't even need to complete something huge. And the accumulation of that improvement every day, the mindset of growth mindset, the ability to look at things with a pair of fresh eyes every day will then bring us what we need as intrapreneur or entrepreneur.
I really like how you have also introduced the two aspects of the growth mindset as being open and motivated individually to create our own learning opportunities, that
Yes.
it's not dependent on the company or people outside of us, but that we take it on as our own personal mantra to learn and grow. In our consulting practice, we work with family-owned businesses. One of the typical pushback that happens in any corporate change initiative, whether it is around digital transformation or succession planning or even professionalizing, is that the founders have an expectation that you're going to see the trend just go upwards.
Right.
They don't consider that over it goes up and comes down and goes up. Even in that transformation innovation space, what is required is that when you come down, be committed to moving in that direction that you say is the future,
Right.
rather than go back to the past. And depending on the different countries that we work in, some have got a little more tolerance and some have less tolerance.
Right.
But that's a key aspect that a founder has to manage when they start this journey of transformation or innovation, that they give space for the idea to grow and the result is seen. So it's not like they're not satisfied just measuring the progress. How do you mitigate so that you're not giving up on strategic changes or innovation or transformation too early?
It's a good question. And in reality, there's no standard answer to that. That's why the alignment of the innovation leadership's vision and strategy is very important, because we have to align from the top to the bottom. What is the timeline? what kind of innovation, right? First, how much are you willing to invest? How long do you expect the result to be? If it's very short term, then you can only do incremental innovation. Don't go and do a disruptive, high investment and expect things to happen in, say, 3 years if you're doing research. But if you have no patience capital, then define upfront. Tell me, if you only have 3 years to see result, then we don't go the other path, which will take me 5 years.
Yes.
And we will align and say, okay, 3 years is what the company wants. We do things that will give you result in 3 years, and these are the incremental innovation. You still can innovate, but you don't expect transformative or disruptive kind of innovation. So that
Yes.
alignment is important. How much to invest? How long do you expect the return? So the leader themselves or the owner of the business have to truly do their soul searching. They cannot be ambiguous. They cannot don't know or don't define and just give a very high level statement and say, yeah, I love innovation.
Yes.
Just go ahead and do. But after a while, they get impatient and they were like, it's not showing
Correct.
result, not big enough. It's probably good to have a council or a group of people looking at innovation. And that's where the role of board of director comes in. I know a lot of family business, probably they don't have, it's typically formed by your family members, but it could be good bring in the right expert into the council, call it innovation council or something, to help to define this and have alignment.
Let's move now to the next mindset, the crisis ready mindset. Crisis, it's a kind of a setback or a failure. And usually there is also a moment where you have to deal with it or you're going to die. Some of us deal with it by fighting back, and some of us can flee, or some of us can freeze. Share from your own personal journey and how you dealt with it. What do you think that you learned or practiced that allowed you to be effective in that crisis?
I remember a situation where when I was still a young leader, and we are dealing with half project where the customer is very unhappy and our project timeline is overrun, is going into like a negative P&L. And my boss, while he's pushing us in the meeting, is making comment that is very direct and harsh. But then he followed up with a phone call and to every one of us and tell us why he's doing that. And I still remember he was telling us that no matter how tough, I'm with you, right? And we're going to deal with this together. So that sense of I'm not alone, I'm going to do this together, and we will go through this crisis and emerge stronger as a team. That's very important. And that makes the team even stronger and the belief in the leader's integrity.
Oh, that's interesting. We are able to deal with crisis as a function of the coping mechanism that we have developed. When you look at what do you think supported you to be very calm and level-headed during a crisis or a tough time?
I'm a Buddhist and I practice meditation as well as yoga. So
Nice.
that helps because in a way, you need to let your mind settle down so that you are in a state of clarity and you're not driven by your own emotion, become very reactive. If you react when something happens, then how do you lead the team? Right? How do you manage the situation? But if you are not reacting, you recognize what's going on and you are able to then devise a plan to intervene. That is a much better strategy and that helps. That also helps me in dealing with whether personal or in work, with people, relationship, right? Because very often under high stress environment, you see people reacting
Yes.
and people will raise their voice, they will start shouting at each other and things go the wrong way, right? But if you are maintaining your calmness and you step back and maintain the space for people to say what they want to say and truly listen so that you give space and what we call oxygen for the other person, right?
Yes.
So that the person can then in return listen to you when he or she knows that you are listening and you're not just fighting point by point, right? That's typically what we do. The first reaction is to defend,
Yes.
especially if people say this is your fault. right? Why
Yes.
did you do this? That's why this thing goes wrong.
Right.
So
Right.
if we can just hold that space, it will help everyone. And whether at work or in a family, we'll have a lot more peace. I believe meditation helps. Yoga helps me physically and mentally. It gives me a lot of peace.
Where are you in your spiritual journey?
I'm a Buddhist, and when I study what the Buddha say, all that, there's a lot of wisdom and philosophical impact to life, right?
Yes.
In a way, it's pretty scientific. Again, I use the mindset of a scientist. You don't
Yes.
just believe what you read. You don't just believe because it's a religion, but when you use what was said in your life, did it work for you? How do you
Yes.
feel? Is it positive? So that should be the mindset that we go about when we practice in our life. And you use whatever your religion inform you and you practice it. If you're just reading it, it's knowledge. When you practice it, it becomes your own growth. That's my belief in terms of can I be a better version of myself at the end of this journey of life, right? And what would that looks like? So that's how I'm practicing it. I'm still at the initial phase of this journey. I would love to go deeper into the spiritual journey to really get informed and hopefully can help the people around me. At my phase of life, I'm also looking to give back more to the society.
Do you think it's possible for us to live a simple life? And what's your definition of a simple life?
Definitely, I'm a minimalist. We should live simply. Simple life means enough. Of course, the enough part definition differs from person to person. It's
Yes.
very personal, right? So to me, enough means, of course, I have a space to live in. I don't need a huge house. Too big, sometimes I get scared, right? If I'm the only
Yes.
one inside.
Yeah.
Just enough space where you can enjoy your family time, right, with your loved ones. Enough food because too much it makes you sick, fat,
Yes.
right? And all that,
Yes. Yes.
not healthy. Enough time for yourself. Too much you get bored, right? But you should have time for people. But
Yes.
too much for any side is bad. If you have not enough time for your me time, also no good. So I would use the word enough, and then we have to really define what is enough.
That's a simple way to look at a simple life. Enough versus too much. Sustainability, it's a big topic. In our consulting business, we talk about it as the ongoing thriving of a living system. It starts with our mindset.
Mm.
Today, we see a lot of initiatives around climate change, around the environment. What about sustainability and how does that pan out in your life, whether it's at work or at home?
It's really great that now the awareness about sustainability has increased a lot more
Yeah.
compared to even like 5 years back. When we look at sustainability, the impact to climate, to the world, and to the way we live or to the way we use things or buy things, there's a lot that we can do. But again, it goes back to how do you change your personal behavior? How do you change your consumer behavior at large, the society? So when we go to, say, Japan or Taiwan, we're always very impressed with how they do recycling.
Yes,
And
that's
from young in school, the kids were taught that's the way of life. And they see it at home because their parents are all doing it. But in Singapore, we didn't grow up with that, right?
yes,
We
yes,
didn't see it. We don't know how to recycle. We do
yeah,
the wrong way, right? You throw the wrong thing into the wrong bin.
yes, yes.
And probably we still do even today. So we are not educated enough. We need that. And also the why part. Why do you even need to do that? So sometimes the elder generation, because we are not educated, they will think like, never mind, like, why so troublesome, right? And I'm just one person, it's just a little bit. They couldn't see the impact of adding up. Yeah. Even some of us, I don't think we have that profound understanding. Maybe intellectually we know, but does it really act out in our daily life? I would say not enough, even for myself, right? My own awareness is not enough because it didn't come from young. It wasn't my habit. But with the awareness, then we cautiously should be doing it more. Yeah, even in work, when we talk about ESG, it's good that now there's a lot of emphasis, especially in Singapore, right? We are very, very good in measuring everything.
Yes.
And
Yes.
like what we say, what gets measured gets done. So now it's
Exactly.
different index, right? How you measure, every company have to declare, which is good. Then when the company is focusing on that, the staff start to look at it and then it get carried into their life. So
Mm.
whether your education system, your society at large, your organization, it's a machinery to build that into individual. If not, to change the individual behavior is so hard.
Right. So I guess you're pointing to a systemic change. The government does play a role, the education system plays a role as parents and how we parent our children.
Correct.
But above all, the key takeaway is that every action counts
Mm.
and every person's action counts even more. So we can all do something.
Yes, and we need to remind ourselves, right?
Mm.
So for myself as well, constantly we have to remind ourselves.
If you could predict one major technological change in the future, what is it?
Right. I think we all know that the current one that is changing the world is Gen AI, which we have spoken about Gen
Yeah.
AI quite a lot, right? And it will not stop at what we are seeing today. So whatever we call it, Gen AI, don't know what new name we'll give it next time, it's already changing and we are at the start of a change. So I would say it will continue to evolve and actually be embedded into every aspect of our life even deeper. So we
Right.
need to watch this space and we need to look at how we can extract the good and make sure that we have right framework to govern it so that it doesn't use by the bad actor in a different way.
Yeah, it is quite an exciting world. We're going to see our lives be lived out differently. We do scenario planning in our work. And when we look at 2050, most of our clients would say, I'm not sure whether I'm human or I'm a machine. And it could be real even sooner than that. So the next 20 years is going to see a lot of radical change.
Yes, correct. That's why people say that change is a constant and it
Yes.
will not be slower than today.
So I'm going to ask you some quick questions.
Sure.
So the first one is, what's your favorite book?
Oh, Think Again, right? Which
Okay.
is Adam Grant.
Yes. And what's your favorite travel destination? You travel a lot.
My favorite, if I have to choose, I love Switzerland.
And if you could have dinner with anyone in the world, who would it be?
Uh, Still my family, right? My
Great.
immediate family. That's always precious moments that we have to cherish. My son works in US, so
Wow.
it's not like a daily thing that we can get together.
Mm, that's right. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
The ability to listen deeply,
Mm,
even the unspoken.
mm,
That's
yes.
important. Yeah, I think we all needs to listen more than before we jump to conclusion, before we judge, before we talk. Yeah, that's so needed.
Thank you. And what's the best advice that you've ever received?
To constantly grow myself and never stop at evolving yourself, right? There's always a better version of yourself. There's no final product, so called, right?
Mm,
Or
mm,
yourself.
mm, right.
And eventually, hopefully, to forget about yourself and to just give back to the bigger self.
And the worst advice?
Worst advice? I don't think there's a worst advice, right? There's always good advice, even if in the worst advice you can find the positive
Something.
part of it, right? The positive of that negative demonstration.
That's right. So well said, Dr. Ong. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. I've enjoyed it. And you've created for people an easy way to think through it so that they can also learn and practice some of these things.
Thank you, Ramesh. I enjoy this conversation with you, and it's so great. Hope to see you very soon in person.
Yes, definitely.